Prime. This is about the fate of all living things. Unicron is coming.
Hey, welcome to Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy, and before you see Transformers Rise of the Beast, we are going to recap the entire history of the Transformers franchise. I'm not gonna lie, some of these movies contradict each other, so there's gonna be a bit of confusion along the way, but don't worry, we are here to explain it to you.
Let's do it.
Oh, and as we go along, do you want to play this Transformers deck building game with me?
If you can play without thumbs, I'm in.
Alright, great. So, we begin at the beginning of time with the Allspark.
The Allspark?
Now, essentially, it's a magic space cube that can create life out of inorganic material. It's the source of all non-biological life in the Transformers universe. Around 45 million BC, a giant planet-sized transformer called Unicron goes dormant in our solar system. Life begins to form on its surface, and eventually Unicron becomes planet Earth. Then we go to 65 million years BC, and a group of aliens called the Creators visit Earth and other planets, covering them with the seeds of transformium that can convert organic life into transformers.
Wait, transformium? Really? That sounds just as made up as unobtainium.
Actually, Doug, you know, unobtainium is a real engineering term. It's something that, in theory, could solve any problem that you're having.
Oh, so like we could travel to Mars in a day if we had some unobtainium.
Exactly.
Wow, I guess you learn something new every day.
Transformium, however, is completely made up, but more importantly, it's the material used to create Transformers, aka Cybertronians.
Wait, I thought that was the Allspark.
Fair. Okay, it's confusing. The Allspark is what gives Transformers life. It activates them. If the Transformers are Frankenstein's monster, then the Allspark is the thunderstorm, and Transformium is the dead body parts used to make Frankenstein's monster.
It's alive!
The Transformium created the Dinobots, and as cool as they are, they basically remain dormant until they're needed in the fourth film.
Oh, we're already at the fourth film. Neat. All right, we're really moving through this script.
Actually, Doug, we're not even at the first film yet.
What?
Yes, but these movies are like 50% backstory anyway, so by the time we get to the first film, we'll technically be halfway through them all.
Oh, okay, well, all right, let's see what's happening. Carry on.
Okay, so I am playing as Bumblebee.
And I will be Optimus Prime, loser.
Dude, we're on the same team, so I'm gonna teleport an Autobot to the other side of the Matrix. Meanwhile, Cybertron is created, and a vibrant society of Cybertronians begins to prosper.
Wait, who's Cybertron?
It's not a who, Doug, but rather a what. More specifically, it is the homeworld of the Transformers and the battleground that forever cements the Autobots and the Decepticons as immortal enemies.
Autobots? Decepticons?
These are the two warring factions of the Cybertronian race. There are more factions such as the Dinobots, the Terracons, the Predacons, and the Maximals, but all you really need to know is Autobots equals good guys, Decepticons equals bad guys.
Simple enough.
Okay, and I flipped up a Thundercracker, and that's a Decepticon, and I am now ambushed.
Hey, this game's pretty fun. What is it?
Oh, why, this is the official Transformers deck building game made by Renegade Game Studios. I am loving it because you can do competitive play, or you can play in a co-op like me and Doug are doing right now. It's just like Transformers. You can gain allies, find relics, and then gather technology to fight the Decepticons. So, if you like Transformers and gaming, this is a perfect fit for you. It even works great as a solo game. Plus, there are awesome expansions like War on Cybertron, Dawn of the Dinobots, and more. It really does explore every corner of the Transformers universe. Plus, Renegade Game Studios has created the Transformers role-playing game, where you can play as your own Autobot character. There are campaigns where you defend Earth or explore the solar system. This is the most immersive Transformers gaming experience I have ever played. My Autobot's name is Risabot because I've never been great with names.
What did he say his name was?
The core book has everything you need to make your own character. Just add dice, some friends, and your imagination.
Well, I've never played a role-playing game before.
Well, Doug, don't worry, because the book actually contains an introductory adventure that makes it quick and easy to get started. So, if you are a fan of Transformers, you have to give these games a try. Click our link in the description and use the code SCREENCRUSH to get 20% off in-stock Transformers tabletop games. Dude, it's your move. Okay, so as I was saying, Cybertron prospered under the leadership of the Primes, until they were betrayed by one of their own around 17,000 BC. The defecting Fallen Prime ventures to Earth to build a star harvester to collect Earth's sun into Energon, the lifeblood of the Transformers. It's a big no-no to use the harvester on a star that is supporting a life-sustaining planet, so the remaining Primes stop him by stealing the Matrix of Leadership and defeating the Fallen.
And what is the Matrix of Leadership?
It is yet another space MacGuffin that's like the Allspark, but has a special connection to the Primes. In other Transformers series, it's a conduit for godlike powers that can access the afterlife, which is something that Bay kind of flirts with in the second film. About 7,000 years later, the Allspark finally makes its way toward Earth. Now, by this time, the war on Cybertron has all but eliminated every Cybertronian, so Megatron ventures to Earth to find the Allspark and rebuild his army. Also, around this time, the creator of Cybertron, Quintessa, sends her staff down to Earth in hopes of creating a space bridge to that location.
Wait, I thought the creators made the Transformers Transformers.
Well, they did, and they probably made Quintessa too, who in turn made Cybertron and the other Cybertronians. Now, a space bridge is a portal that can transport large objects rapidly through space, kind of like the Bifrost in the MCU, except when I say large, I'm talking like planet-sized. After the war, Cybertron was nearly destroyed. Quintessa knew that the only thing that could rebuild their world was the resources that were dormant in Unicron, which is Earth. She sends the staff to Earth with her Guardian Knights, but they end up befriending humans, and after going full Khaleesi on King Arthur's enemies, they create a secret society where the Transformers can share their knowledge and resources with humanity. This creates the Order of Witwickens, and Bay attributes nearly every human achievement to this secret society. They influenced the most influential people in history and even took down Hitler with a clock.
That's the watch that killed Hitler. Don't screw with it.
You can say he was out of time.
Very well done. Bay's alt history also established Bumblebee as an undercover soldier for the Allied forces during World War II, but more on that later. By the turn of the 19th century, things really start to heat up. In 1913, the military gets its hands on the Allspark, and 20 years later, Captain Archibald Witwicky discovers Megatron frozen in ice, who also ends up in the hands of the US government. Then, in 1961, a spaceship carrying Sentinel Prime crash lands on the moon, which doesn't go unnoticed by the US nor Russia.
Sentinel Prime?
He was the OG leader of the Autobots and Optimus's personal hero. The crash sets off the space race, and although the Americans get there first, the Soviets manage to snag the ship's power core. They take it to a lab to study, but the experiment goes south, resulting in the Chernobyl disaster. Now, it's 2007, and we get to the events of the first movie.
About time.
The first film stars Shia LaBeouf as Sam Witwicky, the great-grandson of Captain Archibald Witwicky, the guy who discovered Megatron. He uncovers everything about the Autobots and the Allspark after he buys a used car that turns out to be Bumblebee. They somehow use Sam's great-grandfather's glass to find out that both the Allspark and Megatron are in US custody, hidden inside the Hoover Dam. They snag the cube, but Megatron frees himself in the process, and one onslaught of explosions later, Sam shoves the Allspark into Megatron's chest, destroying both the Allspark and Megatron in the process. Yes, good move. Megatron's body is tossed into the ocean, Linkin Park plays their song, and Optimus sends out a message to the Autobots saying, "Hey guys, come hang out here on Earth, everybody's super chill." I'll move you because you don't have any thumbs. Revenge of the Fallen takes place 2 years later, and now the Autobots and the US military have teamed up to hunt down the remaining Decepticons. But despite their best efforts, the few remaining Decepticons use a piece of the Allspark to revive Megatron, who intends to use the Star Harvester left by the Fallen to take out Earth.
Somehow
Megatron
returned.
He even lets Optimus do the dying this time, at least for a bit, until Sam retrieves the Matrix of Leadership from the temple, revives Prime, and saves the day.
Cue more Linkin Park.
Now it's 2011, and we gotta deal with all that moon stuff. Prime and the Autobots learn about the Sentinel's arc and visit him on the moon. They use the Matrix to revive the Sentinel Prime. However,
It's a trap!
evidently Sentinel has covertly been working with the Decepticons and the humans to create the space bridge from Cybertron to Earth.
The deal had to be made with Megatron.
Once again, Optimus leaps into excessively explosive action, saves the day, and destroys the entire city of Chicago in the process. Now we are at film number 4, and the US military is none too happy about the whole Chicago thing and is hunting down all the remaining Cybertronians. They set up a secret task force with the help of Lockdown, a bounty hunter working for the creators, to eliminate anyone that could jeopardize the whole space bridge plan. We also learned that the humans are using Transformium to rebuild their robots and have cloned Megatron.
Somehow
Megatron
returned.
Optimus and his new friend Seed Yeager awaken the Dinobots, and with the added firepower, they take down both Megatron 2.0 and his trigger-happy friend, winning the day once again. However, the whole event leads Prime to go look for his creators on Cybertron, which takes us to Bay's final film, The Last Night. Here, Prime meets Contessa, who instantly converts Prime into a villain and sends him back to Earth in order to retrieve her staff and activate the space bridge, which he does pretty handily. Eventually, Bumblebee is able to shake him loose through the good old power of friendship, and Optimus takes out Contessa. In the end, Prime calls the Autobots to return to Cybertron in order to rebuild their homeworld.
Well, sounds like a happy ending, although it's confusing, but happy.
True, but then everything changed with Bumblebee.
Oh, that's right, there's like a whole other movie.
The film starts off in the middle of the war with Cybertron. Optimus tasks Bumblebee with going to Earth and seeking refuge there. He crash lands in 1987, and after being bought at a used car lot disguised as a Beetle, he eventually meets up with Charlie, aka Haley Steinfeld. Eventually, a few Decepticons find him and they team up with the US government to try and capture Bumblebee. But our Bumblebee eventually escapes, parts ways with Charlie, and reunites with his favorite hydraulic homie.
Wait, I thought Bumblebee fought Nazis in World War II.
Travis Knight's Bumblebee's origin not only retcons his own heroics in World War II, but also nearly all of the Transformers' presence on Earth before 1987. Bay's universe included an expansive history that had known about the Transformers for years, but only publicly since 2007. But the movie Bumblebee indicates that they arrived much later, and the public was aware of them much sooner. It also places the war for Cybertron much more recently in the timeline than Bay's films did. And both Bumblebee and Optimus were given a bit of a makeover, giving them an updated look that more closely matches the original animated series. The visual differences and erasure of Bay's alt history have led some fans to consider that this is actually a soft reboot.
So what does this mean for Rise of the Beast?
Technology, draw one card for each adversary boss in the Matrix. Awesome. Well, Doug, it has a lot to do with that, actually. We know that Rise of the Beast is based on the Beast Wars series, and the Maximals seem to be central to this story.
Now what's the Maximal?
They are Transformers who turn into animals. In the Beast Wars animated series, they were created after the Autobots and Decepticons finally made peace.
Oh, the Dinobots.
Somehow, no, they're not Dinobots, which I'm sure will be elaborated on in the film. We've also seen that Unicron is set to be the big bad of this movie. Most importantly, despite the Bay timeline establishing him as being planet Earth. These shots even show Unicron outside of Earth looking down at it with those... There's only a few ways this could happen. One, this is a Unicron from a totally different reality or timeline, or two, it's just a totally complete retcon.
But to save money on a new dish, we'll just call you Snowball 2 and pretend this whole thing never happened.
Personally, I think it could be a mix of both. Now, we know that Rise of the Beast is based on the Beast Wars series, the plot of which revolves entirely around time travel. After the Cybertronians upgraded themselves to smaller, more energy-efficient versions of themselves, they remained in a Cold War-like state until a Predacon, the Decepticons' version of the Maximals, travels back in time to Earth and reshapes history in their favor, attempting to make the Decepticons the victors of their centuries-long war. The Maximals then send themselves back in time after them, and then both parties remain trapped in the past. They transform themselves into animals to adapt to Earth's environment, and that sets off the Beast Wars series. Essentially, the Maximals and Predacons are future versions of the Autobots and Decepticons, but that's not the only time-traveling enemy teased in these trailers. We also saw the Terracons logo was also shown in the Rise of the Beast trailer.
There's another one? What's a Terracon?
The Terracons are Unicron's elite militia who travel throughout time to do his dirty work.
But I thought Unicron was Earth.
In Bay's universe, it is, but the Rise of the Beast trailers very obviously place it outside of Earth, which at the very least seems to contradict Bay's plans for Unicron. In his original animated debut, Unicron was essentially the Transformers version of Galactus, feeding on entire planets and solar systems, which is exactly what it's threatening in these new trailers.
Oh, okay, so it's a reboot.
Well, Doug, I think it's both. The creators of the Bumblebee film were really dodgy about directly answering whether the film is a soft reboot or a direct prequel, and the cover for Rise of the Beast has been just as cryptic. However, the clearest answer came from the Rise of the Beast director Stephen Caple Jr., who told The Hollywood Reporter, "This film doesn't mess up any of the timelines in 2006 or 7. We're actually going in a different direction that allows us to protect that side of the universe, but that's all you need to know."
Well, that's super vague.
Well, I think it's meant to be, and it's also giving us plenty of room to theorize.
Oh boy, here we go.
If the Maximals are reaching out to Optimus to warn them about time-traveling enemies, such as the Terracons and the Predacons, trying to prevent the events in Michael Bay's timeline and rewriting them in the Decepticons' favor, then it's possible that the Unicron we see in Rise of the Beast is actually the Unicron that lays dormant and became planet Earth in Bay's films, circling back in time to feast on a younger Earth.
But wouldn't that just mean that Unicron is eating its younger self?
Maybe, which could be possible in the Transformers universe. We don't know their rules regarding time travel. It's also possible this is some alternate reality where Primus is the Earth's core.
Wait, what does Les Claypool have to do with this?
No, not that Primus. See, in the Transformers universe, Primus is kind of like the good version of Unicron. They are opposing cosmic celestials, and while Unicron is meant to destroy the galaxy, Primus is meant to protect it.
But how can the Earth be both Primus and Unicron?
Well, for this to work, these would have to be two different dimensions, or even an alternate timeline. And if that's the case, it could explain both the inclusion of the Terracons and the timeline inconsistencies, while also addressing the similarities between Bay's films and the prequels. Essentially, Rise of the Beast could be a battle between Michael Bay's timeline and this slightly altered one that we've been given in the prequels. It's also possible that these prequels are actually sequels, in a way.
There's a third option?
Stay here with me, Doug. As said before, the Maximals were created after the peace treaty was made with both Cybertronian factions, and then they were sent back in time, which would create an alternate timeline timeline or an alternate reality. If Bay's timelines were continued in the same way, with the Maximals returning to the past to rewrite history, then Bumblebee could be a retelling of the Transformers story within this created timeline. This would allow for Bay's films to still remain in continuity, but also detach future writers from its incredibly complex lore.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
Agreed. Now, how much of it is a full reboot and how much of it is simply carelessly retconned? That is to be determined. But we can rest assured knowing that the next film should provide some answers for the future of this franchise. And with that, the third boss is defeated and we win the game. High five. That's a good boy. There we go. And just a reminder, everybody, to get a 20% discount on the Renegade Games Transformers tabletop game selection here, click our link in the description and use the code SCREENCRUSH. Well, what do you guys think? Is there anything we left out of our recap that we should have kept in? Let me know in the comments below, or you can @ either of us on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.